Hello, this is Marcos Sarris. In this part of the tutorial, we will finally deploy a data sharing network for the simulation of the national ID card. This data sharing network will be deployed on the three VMs instantiated on the AWS cloud we already set up in the first video. As we told before, our artifacts for each organization will be installed on one VM for this simulation. In a real production environment, each organization will probably work with several VMs each. This diagram shows some of the elements GoFabric will deploy and install. As some of you has already realized, GoFabric uses a permissioned blockchain to make everything work, but it's not necessary to know anything about the blockchain technology or blockchain development to create your own network. In this simulation, the Department of State will be on the VM with the IP final 225. The Social Security Administration will use the VM final 66, and the sorry, and the Florida Highway Safety will be on the IP final 96. After the deployment, each organization will have an element called Certificate Authority or CA. That is basically the system that provides all the crypto credential that ties every transaction on a great security model. It will be necessary to configure a username and password for each CA, and it is important to memorize them. There is no easy recovery for this information. Two important elements that GoFabric will install are the peers and orders of the network. You probably are not familiar with these terms, but these are artifacts of a blockchain that saves and synchronizes all the registers in a distributed tamper-proof database. The elements that GoFabric users will interact a lot will be the Web Service API and the Web Interface frontend. The Web API is the middleware that enables all systems to interact with the data sharing network. GoFabric will be able to deploy a ready-to-use web interface, so any organization will be able to create, modify, read, or delete the digital assets that of the data sharing network. Okay, after this brief explanation, let's begin with the deployment of the network. I will change here to the GoFabric interface. I had already some pre-configuration installed, and right now we can show we already defined the three organization here. Right now I need to set the username and password for each CA as I told before. Okay, perfect. And right here I will identify the peer order and the Web API VM that is going to be able to communicate. I will make them in the same VM as I told you. We use only one VM per organization. All right, the USDS organization is already configured. Let's go to the SSA. All right, I already configured the username and passwords for this organization CA. Right now, I'm going to identify the VM that will be using as a web API, peer and order. They will be the same as I told you. And let's go to the last one. All right, defining username and password for the CA. And okay. All right, this is set. Perfect. Here we have this endorsement configuration. The endorsement is the config for this one for identify which organizations will be necessary to be online for the network to be working. Here I'm going to say that it's necessary for either USDA and SSA to be online, so the network will be working. It's not necessary for the Florida highway safety to be online. Okay, and we go to the next step. Perfect. We will ask for using template. The channel is the name of the database, the name of the, and we call this network, let's call it NetID. Oh, sorry for that. Here, NetID is the network name. And as we had already configured in the latest video, we have the USID template. I just selected. And right now, I need to identify which organization can create or write some of the fields and properties of this asset. We will say you have a default writable, these assets. First name field can be created or written by any organization. All right, the social security number, only SSA will be allowed to write. The passport, only USDS, only the Department of States, and the driver's license, only Florida highway safety. And that's it. So after that, we just click start and GoFabric is starting to work. Right now, the platform is connecting with each VM, with each virtual machines, and installing and deploying all the necessary artifacts that will make everything work. It really takes sometimes a few minutes. So in a few minutes we'll have everything installed, and now the organizations will be allowed to connect with each other and exchange the data information we defined here. In a matter of fact, the data of a simulation of a national ID card, as we have already defined here. So let's wait a minute and see what happens. Okay, so we have just deployed our first data sharing network. Here we have these three organizations: the U.S. Department of State, we have the Social Security Administration, and for the highway safety already started and ready to work. Thanks for watching. See you on the next video.